To those out there celebrating, happy Shavuot. I'll tell you what that is later. At any rate, I guess we should start with a call to order. Can I get a call to order for our meeting? Or not? Okay.
Roll call.
The roll call vote?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, roll call vote.
The names are going. Commissioner Light.
All the names are gone.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Commissioner Light.
Here. Hey.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Boswell. Commissioner Light. Commissioner Boswell.
Here.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Craig.
Here.
Commissioner Hazeltine.
Here.
Commissioner
Gaddis. Yes,
Gaddis.
here.
Who's
And
Commissioner Conroy.
There's a ventriloquist in here.
in the pledge.
And now they also salute to the flag. But Commissioner Hazeltine, would you be so proud to lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now we need to approve the order of agenda. Do I have a
Motion to approve the order agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Blue folder items.
Motion to receive and file blue folder items.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Now do we already receive and file those, right?
Consent calendar.
Consent calendar. These are business items except for those formally noticed for public hearing or those polled for discussion or assigned to the consent calendar. The commission members may request that any consent calendar items be removed, discussed, and acted upon separately. Items removed from the consent calendar will be taken up under the excluded consent calendar section below. Those items remaining on the consent calendar will be approved in one motion. The chair will call on anyone wishing to address the commission on any consent calendar item on the agenda, which has not been polled by the commission for discussion. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once, and comments will be limited to a total of 3 minutes each. So can I get
Anybody online for comments to consent calendar?
right? Any comments? Anyone online for that? No?
We have no e-comments.
Okay.
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And item 2,
Public participation.
public participation on non-agenda items. Item H. This section is intended to provide members of the public with the opportunity to comment on any subject that does not appear on the agenda for action. This section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once. Written requests, if any, will be considered first under this section. Jamal, do we have any requests or either in person or online?
We have no e-attendees and no e-comments available at this time.
Very good. Next is receive and file written comments on
Motion to
non-agenda
receive
items.
and file written comments on non-agenda items.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Next, ex parte communication. The section is intended to allow all officials the opportunity to reveal any disclosure or ex parte communication about the following public hearings. Commissioner Boswell, do you have any ex parte communication?
I spoke to no one.
Commissioner Young?
No.
Commissioner Gaddis?
Yes, I confess, I spoke with the chairman of this commission.
You are out of order. There you go. Commissioner Hazeltine?
I spoke with Chairman Craig and I spoke with the public.
I spoke with the public, and as I mentioned earlier, I spoke to Commissioner Gaddis and Commissioner Hazeltine. Now should we bring in public hearings? Any items continued from previous agendas?
None.
Lisa? Items for discussion prior to action. And this is the item tonight is discussion and possible action confirming consistency of the proposed 2025 to 2030 capital improvement program with the city's general plan and recommendations to the city manager for the upcoming fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. So,
All right.
so where do we begin now? Do we have a presentation or not?
Yes, staff
Okay.
has a brief presentation. I'd also like to note that we have joining us on Zoom Jesse Reyes. He's the Capital Improvement Programs Manager for the city. So if there is any questions about some specific project that you might have, we've got Jesse on hand to handle any details. So with that, I'll go ahead and present the item. Just a couple of slides. This is an annual event. Last year it was a little more informal. It was handled just in conversation, which was not as correct as it should be. So we have this agendized tonight. The requirement by state law is that the planning agency, which is this body, has to confirm prior to the city council's adoption of has to confirm that the capital improvement program is in fact consistent with the city's general plan. And that has to occur prior to the city council's adoption of the capital improvement program. So we've got the item. We've done it all the other prior years formally, and we're back on track tonight. And thank you again for being available for the special meeting tonight to accomplish this. So this is the government code section 65401, and it requires the city's capital improvement plan to be consistent with the city's general plan. So that's just a citation of that government code section. With your report, there was a document that was attached that basically picked a few sample projects from the city's CIP and then highlighted general plan element, land use element, utilities element, open space and conservation element, goals and policies that clearly demonstrate the consistency between the capital improvement, the city's capital improvement program projects and the city's general plan. And I can tell you when community development is a part of the development of the capital improvement program, we're looking and monitoring, if you will, that these projects are aligned with the city's general plan. And this slide here just identifies a couple of the programs and projects. The sanitary sewer facilities rehabilitation project in the CIP, the sanitary sewer system camera inspection project that's in the CIP, and then another one on drainage facilities, the enhanced watershed management plan. And all of those programs align specifically with a couple of the goals within the city's utilities element. And they're called out here, Goal 6A, to establish and maintain adequate planning, construction, maintenance, and funding for sanitary sewer collection and treatment facilities to support and serve the various land uses and intensities in the city. And then almost the same policy, but for storm drainage facilities in the utilities element as well, or shall I say the goal 6B regarding drainage. So all throughout the CIP and the general plan, the policies, there are very specific policies that are really directing the city, hey, you've got city infrastructure, it's got to be maintained, it's got to be updated when it's required. So that's how the CIP is aligned and consistent with the capital improvement program. And I've just got one more slide about that, and it's for the street improvement projects, particularly the bicycle transportation plan implementation. And there's a number of goals and policies in the general plan circulation element that speak to the enhancement of the city's bicycle transportation facilities. So that's just a sampling of that demonstrate the consistency between the city's capital improvement program and the city's general plan. Now, another, and not part of the resolution that's before you tonight, but another action that that's part of this discussion item tonight. Aside from the CIP, we've also, the city manager is asking for recommendations from the various commissions on the city's draft annual budget for 25-26. And usually we have Mike Wazanski, the city manager, come in and he discusses it with the commission. We were only able to get Mike for if you recall, for the strategic plan effort. And so we had, discussions directly with him on that tonight. He's still looking for some input, if there is any, from the commission. And what I've done on this slide is bring up the recommendations that this body had on the strategic plan. And it's, you can, as a consideration, a recommendation could be, hey, to work funding in to support the strategic plan that you've already come up with. So that's just, and what I'll do, tomorrow back in the office, get whatever comes of the discussion on the budget, I'd relay that to Mark and Mike, and that'll get into the discussions with the city council on the budget. So that's staff's presentation. The recommendation with respect, the critical action tonight is the confirmation that the capital improvement program is consistent with the city's general plan. So that's the resolution that we have before you tonight, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay, I have a question.
Commissioner Gaddis.
So do we essentially have two things to do? One is adopt the resolution simply stating that the capital improvements overall is consistent with the general plan. And then the second thing would be a recommendation that those strategic plan items that you just showed on the prior slide, that we should recommend that those be implemented with budgets, and we're making that recommendation to the city manager.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
So,
Seems very straightforward. And all the things that were in my head to bring up, they're right there on that. Can you go back to that page?
yes.
And it's
Yeah.
right there. The bike rack development standard, that was the number one thing I wanted to talk about. And it's already there. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, those
And
are
it's got the tree canopy.
everything we talked about.
Yeah.
Good job there.
Yeah,
You're
excellent.
welcome. I know
Several
what
steps
you
ahead of us.
guys like.
You hear us.
Yes, absolutely.
Indeed. I want to this out to the commission, but in going through the projects, obviously they're pretty wide ranging. I actually
Yeah.
shared the one link that you had with the map of the city where you can click on
All right.
projects. Got a lot of really good feedback. People had no idea that ability to drill down and see what's like. People are like, well, where's our money being spent? Well, they can check, well, gee, what's going on in the street by my house? Well, they're going to do bulb outs all the way on Grant Avenue, for example, or doing some improvements on Pacific Coast Highway and other things like that. I think that's really good. But one thing that kind of struck me because I was going through just some of the capital plans, I've seen a lot of the budget processes where there's a lot of horse trading that ends up happening and budget packages, and districts want to get stuff for their constituents, and they do some trading. But one thing that kind of struck me is that I know that in the capital improvement projects we have, sometimes there's up to I think like 80 or 89, I think right now, that are currently in process or in the pipeline to be completed. It seems like there's always a high number. I know you can't do all of them, obviously, right away, but they could be in various stages of funding. Maybe they need to go after RFP or whatever the last steps are to kind of get it past the finish line.
Yeah, all the projects within the CIP, and we do have Jesse here tonight too. He could speak a little bit more to it if we need to, but they're in different phases.
Exactly. And
some are,
because sometimes they could take years. For example, the green garden they're going to put underneath the power line. I know Mayor Brand was talking about that 10 years ago, I think.
Right.
And it took that long for a lot of reasons, and it's fine to the stage that now. But one thing that I saw in going through, I saw some improvements to, obviously there's some infrastructure issues that are in there, like the sewer and water stuff and whatever. But it seems like the one biggest area that would be really good to see the city focusing on is the city yard and the city infrastructure in order to implement these improvement projects. And I know this is something that was kind of bounced around during the idea to put a bond measure on the ballot for the police and fire stations. And I know they were talking, well, if we improve the city yard, that obviously would increase the efficiency to make these projects be done more quickly, probably. Because, I've seen the yard, I mean, it was built in the 50s.
Yeah.
There's some areas where you have to work on equipment, it's outdoors, and outside in the open air. So granted, we have good weather here, but you get some nasty rainy days and you're trying to work on some equipment or a material that's going to be used at some project around the city. It just makes it that much more difficult and take more time. So it seems like we're doing really good at getting things. It's kind of like that old Seinfeld episode. You're really good at taking a reservation for a car, but you don't have a car. You can't get the car when you come to pick it up. And I would just like to see if the city would focus more on maybe working on that. Sure, it's not a real glamorous thing to pay for. Let's put X amount of million on a new city yard. But guess what? You will get more projects done more quickly and more efficiently. And I think the staff would love it. I think it would be helpful for them. And again, I just throw the idea out to the commissioners that might be something that may be a recommendation to say, hey, maybe you should go back and
Want that
focus
on
on
the
this.
list?
I was just throwing an idea out there because it's just something that just struck me, and then talking to staff, and they work really hard. They have a lot of stuff they have to do, and I've talked to Mike Wasansky about a lot of stuff too, and he's just amazed that they're able to do the number of items that they can do in a fiscal year, and it just seems like maybe that's something that we can ask the city to go back and maybe prioritize, because that's something that would benefit all residents immediately.
It looks like we have a public works yard, facilities and infrastructure upgrade.
I think that's a roof.
30,000, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, it wasn't a giant.
130,000.
Yeah, there was a part of it. Now, my understanding from, the discussion last time when they were talking about the bond measure, I thought it was a $4 or $5 million potential expenditure if they were going to redo the whole thing. Again, I'm not sure if that's the case, but it seems like from what I've been hearing, a lot of the repair stuff that's been done is more Band-Aid fixes, not really a redesign of the facility to make it more efficient, because obviously what we were doing back in 1950 isn't the same as what we're doing now. We have some pretty complex equipment and things to maintain, and it seems like a better layout or setup would make sense at this point. I mean, businesses, as they grow, they change to larger, different buildings and rearrange stuff, and we've never had that opportunity, I think.
I mean, we could definitely ask Jesse if,
Can you guys hear me?
yeah. Thank you, Jesse.
Hi, commissioners. Thank you. For Jesse Reyes, Capital Projects Manager. We would love a new yard. That I don't think anyone would say no to that. There is that one project, right? The public works infrastructure. You are correct. That's more of some concrete work that need to repair our pit. We added a new lift for some of the heavier vehicles there. There's a plan to replace the fence along the street there, but nothing to the actual facilities themselves. That would be correct, Commissioner Craig. That is more of a $5 million project, give or take the order of magnitude. What we are doing in terms of facilities is we're trying to put some funding towards just improvements as we can, especially at City Hall, the Civic Center. We use some of that where we can in Public Works now that we don't have that funding going towards the fire stations or the police department with the new bond measure coming on board and renovating and adding new facilities for those. We're hoping to have some of the discretionary funding go towards some of our facilities that are not included in that. We don't have as much discretionary funding as we have in the past, just to be frank. So we're trying to make those improvements as we can, but it's much more of a repair and maintenance situation. What I will say, though, in fairness, most of our CIPs are not done by our own city crews. They are mostly contracted out. We do have some smaller maintenance projects that we'll do in-house, but most of our CIPs are done by outside contractors, and that we just don't have the staffing to be able to have them take on CIPs and do the regular maintenance work that they have to do throughout the city.
Got it. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I think that's important to know too as well. Like I said, it just seems like I've always seen the crews out there doing really good, some emergency, like there was a sinkhole that happened, I think a couple years ago, and they were out there and they took care of it right away, and I don't think a lot of cities could do that quickly. And I have clients of mine who live literally right behind the city yard. I see inside of it all the time. And I'm just seeing, wow, there's just got to be a better way to organize that.
Yeah.
So maybe they're not willing to spend the money on it since they hire out most of the jobs, it sounds like.
It sounds like it, but I'm wondering if that was a change, maybe that wouldn't be
Hiring out the
necessary.
job.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Jesse, would you explain a little bit about the dashboard? Has that evolved since you first started that?
So we started the dashboard a couple of years ago. It was part of a council driven to have some more eyes into our projects. In all fairness, in all transparency, it's been a few months since we've updated it. I just hired on a new analyst, so we're hoping to have that change. But it is intended to, in real time, on a either biweekly or at least a monthly basis, update all our current projects and where they are in their phases. And really, the concentration, I think, for us is especially for active projects, letting the public know if there's any disturbances. They can go to that portal. They can click on the segment, the project, and it'll show them, oh, this is in construction, or oh, there's some sort of activity going on. They can always reach out and call us, and the residents do, and we're happy to provide that information. But that's kind of a tool to not have to reach out and find someone and just do it on their own.
And doesn't it have a contact information when you click on it too? Or
Yes, it has
Yeah.
the project manager
Right.
of that specific project and their contact information, their email, and I believe their phone number as well, just so people can reach out if they have any questions.
That's great. Thank you, Jesse.
Jesse, one other quick question. If granted, I know you said a lot of the project might be subcontracted out through an RFP process, but I know that some parts of the city are used for storage as well. Like I know the Fun Factory right now is used as storage, isn't it, for a lot of material? So it seems like that also could be a usage that might be available if they were be able to do some rearrangement of the city yard as well, so that the Fun Factory site could be leased out, for example, and be a money generator for the city. So any other questions people have while we're at it?
I have a question for Jesse. Can you explain to me how the firing range aligns with the general plan?
Yeah.
I am not an expert on the general plan, so I'll allow Sean to
that'd probably be
kind
me.
of answer that
Is that
question.
you, Sean?
Yes, and I would have to look, there are policies about the maintenance and upkeep of city facilities, public facilities, infrastructure policies. That would be the policy. I don't have chapter and verse, but that would be the general policy that we would
I'm
cite.
looking at it in the capital improvement program on
Right.
the desktop app. And as I understand it, there's $1.3 million plus going towards design for a $17 million possible structure. I just wanted to take this time to just say that when we have a city where so few people participate in politics, we've got so many people that aren't involved on the local level. I would venture to guess that if we had 70,000 people voting on whether or not they wanted $17 million going to a shooting range of military grade, that might be a no in this city. Part of the problem that we have is these things are pushed by carpetbaggers and that are on the council. And it isn't necessarily something that I don't feel personally the residents of the city would be too happy about. That's a lot of money that could go for something very specific for that the people that live in this city could enjoy, whether it's something simple as making their neighborhood cleaner or looking prettier, or that they see on a day-to-day basis. But militarizing our police department is probably not something that they would go along with if they actually knew that that's what was happening.
What I will say, just to be clear, the anticipated $17 million, that is not city discretionary monies. That is a grant that we're applying for and hoping to get. The grant was just released recently. We're in the process of getting that application together to apply and hopefully have that fully funded by the federal government.
And who's
So we
paying
don't
for
anticipate-
that? That the military is paying for that?
That is a Department of Defense grant.
And that's something that our little beach town requires. Obviously, that's what the city council thinks. That's unfortunate. Okay, I've said it.
One question, Jesse, on that. I went through some of the council meetings where this was discussed, but the grant, how much of that grant is going to be available for this particular? I thought they were talking about a number where there was a portion of it and the city was going to have to contribute the rest. And I think the concern that probably some people would have is that I think there's like $1.2 million, I think, allocated to development of that. But what's the real likelihood of the federal government giving us anything now with all the Department of Government Efficiency stuff going on now? I'm just wondering if that's wishful thinking or could it happen?
I think I don't think the Department of Defense has been one of the targets of those cuts. So the grant was put out. There is an 80, I don't know, I believe it's either 80-20 or 75-25 split. What we're trying to do is there is a waiver with the support of the Secretary of Defense to get it fully funded. And that's kind of our first effort, and our first goal is to try to have this fully funded by the federal government. So the city does not have to put its own discretionary money towards this.
What is the benefit of having a shooting range like this, of this caliber, in the city of Redondo Beach, when we have shooting range that the police can go to use by LAX in Hawthorne, if I'm not mistaken? I mean, a little ride over to, 20 minutes
What I'll say
away.
is I am not the chief of police. I'll let them answer to kind of the benefit of that. What I do know, and what the chief has said during the council meetings, is the officers have to qualify every month. And there's certain weapons that they cannot shoot at the current range that we have. They have to travel out pretty far distances to Santa Clarita or further out. What I believe he said is that that costs money, staff time for the city. So there is a benefit to having something within the city where the officers stay within the city, and we don't lose that staff time of them having to travel out to qualify.
Yeah.
Good question.
Commissioner Boswell.
So the closest equivalent range for these sorts of weapons is Santa Clarita?
Again, I could be wrong. I know there was a Lopez Canyon. I don't know where Lopez Canyon is exactly. I think it might be maybe in the San Fernando Valley. I could be mistaken. Again, I don't want to speak for the police chief or the police department. This is just information he's put out there when they've discussed the shooting range in the past.
So between here and there, no other city wants to do this? Are we the only ones that want to put in a facility?
I mean, Torrance has their own facility that they qualify at. It's within their own department. I think it's in the basement. I think our police department has explored those options. There's scheduling issues, so they haven't been able to figure that out. Apparently, again, I'm not an expert, but apparently it's a pretty difficult. There's not many of these ranges throughout the region.
And Chair, if I may, Chair, I'm sorry. It's not within the purview of the Planning Commission to weigh in on the merits of any of the projects within the capital improvement program. Or prioritization of any of those programs or projects, strictly limited to a consistency determination between the capital improvement program and the general plan.
Yeah, that was my original question.
Yeah.
How does that public, public safety? Is that like,
Ye-
how does that?
And we do, yes,
I mean, we need these big, huge machine guns in order to save this beach town in Redondo, I guess.
But once the weed shops open up.
Sorry. Unbelievable. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, are there any other questions from any of the commissioners?
So is this an all or nothing kind of thing, where we say, yeah, it's all good, or do we say, do we really think that a military grade shooting range is consistent with the general plan? Because I don't see it. That probably falls under something else they can justify it with, like, you know, the police budget. But is there really something in the general plan that asks us to do this?
about upgrading public facilities, yes.
Well, that's a pretty general thing.
That's a general plan.
So
So
the
it gives
general
the
plan doesn't specifically mention shooting range?
There might be mention of it in the safety element, but it's not general plan is not designed to speak to individual projects in that way. It's a broad-based policy document that allows the city discretion to implement more specific detailed
So
plans,
what would
like
be-
a capital
What would be an
improvement
example of
program.
something that wouldn't fit? Just to get
I
some,
mean,
just to get some
I-
understanding.
Liquor bar in the
Because it
mayor's
sounds like
Yeah.
everything
that would be
would,
appropriate.
everything would fit the general plan if it's that vague.
How about this? It's a
Generally,
city-sponsored oil derrick in the backyard.
unless, if it's some private project being funded through the capital improvement program for some reason, that could, depending on the merits of it, I'm not sure. It's rare that you find, because we're looking at implementing the general plan through capital improvements, they're built on the same foundation, so they're almost inherently, going to be consistent. It's, the intention of the law is just to ensure there's nothing way outside the realm that a city starts to fund that their general plan just doesn't speak
We're
to.
just an extra set of eyes to catch anything that looks untoward.
Yes.
And
Perhaps an example might be
Yeah,
if the city manager wanted to have his own private racing track in the stadium at Redondo High School, right? That might not be an acceptable
His own
general
lane on the
plan
track.
thing.
Correct.
That's improving the,
Improving the
Yeah.
Well,
existing building.
probably,
Well, I guess from what you're saying, just with regard to the topic of that, I mean, I know the city has an existing gun range. And I know there's been a lot of liability issues. There's been some concerns of the neighbors because, I went through the Citizen Police Academy and, you couldn't fire weapons after a certain time because there was issues. I know there's also been times they found bullet slugs, I think, in homes nearby. And I know it's got lead contamination or something like that.
there's,
playground across the street.
Yeah, and the
They're
playground
finding
right across the
bullets.
street edge of the school,
Yeah.
like the towers
Elementary
elementary is
school.
right there. So I guess in the lieu of, is an existing city facility, if you can improve it, obviously, there might be a benefit. So that's where you're saying that that's probably how that applies in that situation.
and that's the purview of the city council, and they've made that decision.
Okay, so, okay. Are there any other questions from anyone?
no?
Nope.
Motion to approve the resolution?
Do I have a second? Is there a substitute motion on the table?
There was a second, wasn't there?
I didn't hear a second yet.
Um,
I'll second it. Let's get it
Okay.
over with.
There a motion to second? Is there any substitute motion or? Okay. And I guess we should go for a roll call vote. You know, Jamal?
Commissioner Light, Commissioner Boswell,
Yes?
Commissioner Young,
Aye.
Commissioner
Gaddis.
Gaddis.
Aye.
Commissioner Conroy,
Aye.
Commissioner Hazeltine,
Aye.
Commissioner Craig, Chairperson Craig.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right.
Then
Then motion to, how do we do it with this, with this page we're looking at here?
Oh, yeah.
How do we add that? So we're suggesting to the city manager that he attach budgets to that and submit it to council?
Yes.
Okay,
I motion for that.
and I second.
And can I get do I have to roll call vote on that or just aye? All in favor?
I think we're roll call vote.
Yeah, roll call vote. Oh, another roll call vote, sorry.
Commissioner Light, Commissioner Boswell,
Yes?
Commissioner Young,
Aye.
Commissioner Gaddis,
Aye.
Commissioner Conroy, Commissioner Hazeltine,
Yes.
Chairperson Craig.
Aye. Motion carries. And next we have items from staff. Any items from staff?
There are no items from staff. We'll see you in a couple of weeks with a couple of projects. And again, thank you for being available for tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean.
All
Thank you
right.
for coming in on a wonderful Monday evening.
And thank you, AV crew, for
Oh, for sure.
showing up.
Oh, yes.
Yes. That worked out very well. A very
Yeah.
good save. So, any commissioner member items for future commission agenda topics? Nothing?
Motion
Can I
to
get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, everybody.